Here's 5 quality of life sort of changes I'd like to see for Total War Warhammer 3 or just Total War in the future. Have you ever thought about why spells and abilities have to be cast in a circle? It's actually a massive limitation on a lot of spells and abilities. Take for example the ironically named Hold the Line ability. It's a goddamn circle. How are we supposed to hold the line if we can't even use 50% of the area to help the line? Cool, we can buff the 2 middle units, but the 2 outside ones we can't really touch. The same issue with Karl's other support abilities. The Reichland Runefang we could give 24 melee attack but only to 2 units, the rest of the circle we're just gonna waste. And Stand Your Ground we can give melee defense but again only to 2 units. You other 2, you're fucked. See you later. Say hi to Sigmar for me. Now if I moved a little more central I probably could hit 3 units here, but normally I'd have my units more stretched out than this, so it probably would typically only be 2 units I could hit. My point here though is that there's a lot of spells and abilities that have a real limitation on them just because of the shape of the casting area, which is a bit of a weird limitation, no? Maybe this is how it is in tabletop when you cast magic, it's all in circles, I don't know. But imagine this, instead of a circle that some spells like Hold the Line are cast or passively in, why don't they be in, and call me crazy here, a different shape, like a rectangle oblong kinda deal, something more congruent with the idea of buffing a front line. Let's say I'm Big Papa Gelt and I want to give my 4 frontline units plus 60 armor from Glittering Robe. Well, the great almighty circle says no, sorry, you're only allowed to hit 2, because it's a circle and shut up. Or maybe I'd like to debuff the enemy to protect my front line with Transmutation of Lead, but once again, only 2 units because circle. It just seems silly that I am able to do this and cast Glittering Robe on 4 units, but only if I adhere to the limitations of the almighty Overlord Circle. And of course, it's not to say that a circle is completely useless. There's plenty of situations where a circle would be better than a rectangle, especially mid-battle onwards when the front lines are kinda gone and everything's a mess anyway. So I say death to the circle dictatorship, bring in another shape, just really a rectangle is all we need, and then you just tie that to a hotkey so that you can switch between the 2. Circle, rectangle, penis, circle, rectangle, whatever you need. You probably need to tie in a rotate key as well so you can get the rectangle just right, and I think this would add a nice little bit of extra depth to spell and ability casting. Now, if you play Total War Warhammer, you're going to have been in a situation where you go, oh scheisse, I don't want to fight this battle, I'm gonna retreat. So you mash the retreat button and get the hell out of there and your boys run away in a random direction. Have you ever wondered why it's that certain direction? Why not a little to the right over here? Why not a little to the left over here? Why did the AI get to choose where my army that I'm in control of because I am the player retreated to? Because when the AI takes control of your army to retreat them, Sigmar knows it's not making any kind of intelligent decision. With situations like this where I've got one of my armies out just away from one of my settlements, and then oh scheisse, we're attacked by a big dwarf army we need to retreat from. So we hit that retreat button, but oh double scheisse, we can't retreat from them, they're gonna get us. Let's say we fight the battle and lose, or we take the auto resolve. Boom, we've lost, we're dead, we're gone. And judging by the position of the dwarf army, we can tell we were roughly here. So our army just ran directly away from the dwarfs in this direction when it could have run directly over here into my settlement to safety with the protection of the garrison. Or another example, here I've got 2 Khorne armies next to each other, supporting each other from all the Dark Elf armies that are around. But then, oh, along comes a Dark Elf army. Now, realistically, we could beat the crap out of this army if we fought it or auto-resolved it. But let's say we want to retreat. They then attack our other army, so we retreat that as well. And then we find that they've retreated our 2 armies in opposite directions of each other. We're just lucky there were no other armies waiting to get us, but it has messed up our movement range for the next turn as well if we want to take those armies around together. It makes no sense for us to lose control of our army. So what I'd say is that when an army comes along, like this previous example, the dwarves come to get my greenskins army, I press retreat, then I should get this pop up, a little bit of movement range to choose where I want to retreat to. At least give me the choice of all the possible directions away from the enemy army. Because very often, even though it might be a short retreating distance, it could put you in a worse situation and take away your opportunity to put yourself in a better situation, like getting in a settlement or near one of your other armies. So yeah, I see no reason why we should be losing control of our armies as the player in what is actually a pretty important situation in deciding where you should retreat to. And just quickly, if you're thinking about picking up Monster Hunter Wilds, you'd like to save a bit of money on it and support this channel in the process, then do consider making a purchase through my boys Gamesplanet and use the promo code WILDZERK to get a little extra off as well. This isn't a sponsored ad, but I do get a cut of any of your purchases made through the links below in the description or using that promo code. A preemptive thanks to anyone who does. So you know when you have a unit of skeletons charging into battle against the Empire, and the very last row is for some reason 50 meters behind the rest of the unit? Yeah, of course. It's Total War. Or maybe you've got a unit of highly trained Reichsguard who charge at their enemy in different directions, most of the unit going off one way and a few men going and actually hitting the target, but that main bulk of the unit has completely missed the target, so what the fuck? Or maybe you give attack orders to your units and some of the men just decide to keep fighting and ignore what the hell you just said, ending up with units that look like this all over the freaking map. This weird kind of separation of units really does my head in, to be honest. It makes the battles look and feel incredibly messy. And then there's other annoying stuff like your lords and heroes and whatever getting stuck on a single goblin. Or when units simply forget their orders because they touched a routing unit. Like so, watch my demigriffs move through this routed unit. A few of them get stuck, but nowhere near the majority of the unit is stuck, but yet they still get pulled back and then they just stand there forgetting their original order. Made even worse by the fact that when a unit routes and it's all over the place, there's basically like a little minefield that if one of your units touches it, they'll then just ignore their orders. My issue here is really just the messiness of battles from units not really staying together that well. I feel like this wasn't as big of an issue in Warhammer 2, although I haven't played it for a long old time, but it just feels wrong that my highly trained unit of Reichsguard Knights are such a frickin' mess. Shouldn't you be disciplined and responsive as an elite soldier? Although, thinking about it, while I'm complaining about these things, they might actually be good as a feature for cheap, crappy, untrained units like goblins, zombies, or Skaven slaves. It would make sense if they didn't listen to orders very well, or forgot their orders, or their unit was spread about all over the place. And by contrast, elite units were disciplined, organized, and responded straight away and never forgot their orders. I feel like that would actually be a really cool thing for Total War to have that difference between the quality of unit. It would certainly add a lot more value to those higher tier elite units. Maybe this is an idea that just sounds better on paper than it would actually be, but I think it would be interesting to try. There's something about a unit of Skaven slaves responding just as well as a unit of storm vermin that just doesn't quite sit right. If I've said it once, I've said it a few times, I would love to see unit caps in campaign. The Tabletop Caps Reborn mod is the best example of this. I'm sure many of you know the mod, but if you don't, it basically assigns your stronger units as special or rare units, and you can only bring so many special and rare units per army. This really limits the strength of a single army and stops you being able to steamroll everything. So it results in much more balanced armies, which means much more balanced battles, and in my opinion, a much better Total War battle experience. As some examples, here's a bunch of turn 100 enemy armies without unit caps. For the Lizardmen, a frickin' dino single entity army for the most part. For the Empire, half a stack of tanks and landships. I know you've seen those landship mostly armies. For the Dwarfs, an army of just all of their best shit, which is a bit of a nightmare. And compare it to this, the Tabletop Caps mod version, because yes, the unit caps apply to the AI as well, not just you. And again, about turn 100, you can see this is a much more balanced army to take on. Here's an Empire army, a lot of cavalry, but a lot of the cheaper stuff as well. And a Lizardmen army, again, much more balanced than the previous version, although that was just one army, right? I am just picking these out, of course, but at least there's no chance of any landship armies or anything like that. So yeah, I'd love to see unit caps come to campaign in some form for all factions. It could just be a toggle option at the start of your campaign, the same way it is in multiplayer or custom battles, because some people have joined the madness of landship armies and stuff and making crazy doom stacks. That's fine, but some people might like a more balanced experience, thus unit caps. Now it's time for my annual moan about the camera and how we don't have a better camera and we have to rely on better camera mod to come up this high into the sky and see the whole battle going on. Here's how high you can go with the normal Total War camera. Bit of a joke when you look at it side by side, eh? Now this isn't a huge issue, it's not that bad, I can still see most of my pretty wide army here, but why not give people the extra choice of being able to have that higher camera if they want it? Over 400,000 people are subscribed to the better camera mod on the workshop. I also did this poll the other day asking people which camera they prefer to use, and more than a third of people prefer better camera mod to the vanilla camera. And that was just a poll of 11,000 people. It doesn't represent the whole player base, but I'll wager it's pretty much the same over the whole player base. So with such a large percentage of people preferring a camera that comes up higher, and the others either not really caring and are fine with the normal camera, or they just don't know that a better camera is out there, it's fair to say that just adding this slightly higher camera, namely, it does come down a bit lower too, but I think most people use it for the height. It wouldn't go amiss just to add an option in the menus, checkbox, normal camera or high camera. I'd also wager that most people that tried better camera mod probably stuck with it and didn't go back to the normal camera. If you're someone that's never tried it, well, what are you waiting for? Better camera mod, it's on Steam Workshop, it'll take 2 seconds to download, give it a try. Let me know if you ever go back. Otherwise, there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all the patrons and YouTube members who support this channel. Do consider checking those things out if you'd like to support the channel. Otherwise, I will see you in the future.